Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Axion,
I'm Sin.
and we are continuing our exploration of the ruins of La-Mulana and our discussion of Pyramids by Terry Pratchett. You jerk. I'm trying to do an intro here. So yeah, there was a seal here. Huh?
Oh, they don't want you to do the intro.
They clearly
Sonic
don't.
says no.
They clearly don't. So there was a seal here. This is how you wake Mulbrook up. Or not? Oh, that's how.
How did it go from not having a seal to having a seal?
La-Mulana.
Hello, Mulbrook. Yep, hello, Mulbrook. Now, you've been suspended in this pyramid for a long time.
He has. A very long time. She's still, not quite awake yet. Alright, so now that we've got that, we can move on. But yes, Mulbrook has been there for a while. You might say she's been there since, well, if she hadn't been there, she would have died. She just said she has to stay there to preserve her eternal life.
Anyway, our topic today has to do with death and the afterlife, because it's kind of important in a novel that, is absolutely not talking about ancient Egypt, where, they have very specific beliefs about what happens to the dead and what happens to the kings after they die. And this shows up fairly early in the book when Teppic's father has a misunderstanding about basic weather patterns and dies.
Well, that didn't work. Right, so we need to go back to the surface.
So, one thing that he immediately finds off is that death is not quite what he expected. Either the process or the entity.
Because this is Discworld.
Yep. Behind him, a voice said, "Good morning." "Hello, you'd be." "Death," said Death. The king looked surprised. "I understood that Death came as a three-headed giant scarab beetle." Death shrugged. "Well, now you know." "What's that in your hand?" "It's a scythe." "Strange-looking object, isn't it?" said the pharaoh. "I thought Death carried the flail of mercy and the reaping hook of justice." Death appeared to think about this. "What in?" "Pardon? Are we still talking about a giant beetle?" "His mandibles, I suppose, but I think he's got arms in one of the frescoes in the palace." "Seems a bit silly, really, now I come to tell someone. I mean, a giant beetle with arms, and the head of an ibis, I seem to recall." Death sighed. He was not a creature of time, and therefore past and future were all one to him, but there had been a period where he'd made an effort to appear in whatever form the client expected. This founded because it was usually impossible to know what the client was expecting until after they were dead, and then he decided that since no one ever really expected to die anyway, he might as well please himself, and henceforth stuck to the familiar black-cowled robe, which was very neat and familiar and acceptable everywhere, like the best credit cards. Death is always going to be one of my favorite Discworld characters. He's just great. So, anyway, I expect we better be going. Where to? Don't you know? I am here only to see that you die at the appointed time. What happens next is up to you. I suppose I have to wait until they've done all the preparations, mummified me, and built a bloody pyramid. Do I have to hang around here to wait for all that? I assume so. And Death leaves. So, when your culture decides you have to be preserved forever for when the time of a great need for the kingdom,
Ow.
you get electrified by a pyramid. No, you don't get any respite from staying in your tomb forever.
No escape.
A look of faint worry crossed his face. Things that had seemed perfectly sensible when he was alive seemed a little suspect now that he was dead.
Ah. And there goes my ride. And there goes my ferry. So, the king finds himself in a ghostly form, stuck in the afterlife, which for him is bound within the tomb that he is being prepared in. And then, once that's done, to be in his pyramid. And the implication seems to be that he's not gonna go anywhere. Even after this pyramid business is done. Got one. Ow. Bad bug. Bad Anubis. Ah, there it is. And this is, as we find out later in the story, how it has worked for every ruler of Djelibeybi throughout all time. As when the Great Pyramid goes off and starts doing its weird magic, he gets back into his now mummified body along with every ruler that preceded him. And I mean, despite appearances, it's very clear that that was not what he expected. Okay, apparently I can't do that. Can I walk through this? No? No. Thankfully the wall stops him. And it's kind of in the same boat as we mentioned with the gods in a prior episode, where everybody believes in the gods. Everybody knows the gods are real. But everybody also hopes the gods never show up. Alright, how much of that am I going to have to redo? Oh, she actually said something. Something about darkness? Ah, okay. Right, gods. The people of Djelibeybi believe in the gods, believe all of their mythologies, but they don't expect the gods to actually show up. Even the priests, and for the priests it's very problematic when the gods show up. It messes up their situation significantly. to suddenly have the gods actually being at their doorstep. Okay, I'm gonna have to redo all this.
For example, the priests were going irrational. It wasn't that the gods were disobeying them. It's that the gods were ignoring them.
I'm gonna need that later.
The gods always had. It took great skill to persuade a Djelibeybi god to obey you, and the priests had to be fast on their toes. For example, if you pushed a rock off a cliff, then a quick request to the gods that it should fall down was certain to be answered. In the same way, the gods ensured that the sun set and the stars came out. Any petition to the gods to see to it that palm trees grew with their roots in the ground and leaves on top was certain to be graciously accepted. On the whole, any priest who cared about such things could ensure a high rate of success. However, it was one thing for the gods to ignore you when they were far off and invisible, and quite another when they were strolling across the landscape. It made you feel such a fool.
And we end up in this situation where... Oh... Yes, this is what they believed all this time, but now that it's actually in front of them and actually happening where they can see it and interact with it, suddenly it's a problem. And suddenly, the priests don't seem to like the gods very much. Because the gods are actually gods with their own opinions and choices of behavior, and not just something that the priests can use as a justification for their own course of action. And that's inconvenient.
But back to the whole, being dead thing. Apologies to Beetlejuice, I'm not apologizing, actually. With his death, the pharaoh really starts to question all of their death traditions. Well, all of them. Starting with, what's even the point of the pyramids? Because he remembers, they even put a damn great model cart in Dad's pyramid. Solid wood it was, with gold leaf all over it and 4 wooden bullocks to pull it. Then we whacked a great damn stone over the door. He tried to think and found it was surprisingly easy. New ideas were pouring into his mind in a cold, clear stream. So, unfortunately, he can't speak to the living. So, people find him after he has died and... "Listen," said the king, whose urgency was equaled only by the servant's total inability to hear anything he was saying. "You must find my son and tell him to forget about the pyramid business, at least until I've thought about it a bit. And there are 1 or 2 points which seem a little self-contradictory about the whole afterlife arrangement." So, yeah, the dead don't really care about all the pomp and circumstance, because, they're dead. In this case, even the conscious dead don't want the big fancy funeral arrangement. But this kind of comes back to the whole, the funerals for the living situation. They're the ones who find the comfort from it.
I know there's supposed to be a ferry around here somewhere.
Well, since you came in with a ferry, it's probably not going to be there for a while.
Ah.
Remember, they're on a timer.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, it's normally right there.
Okay. We'll come back later then. I need to go here.
So when Tepic arrives, the king does try to get through to him. "I don't want a bloody pyramid. There's a whole interesting attorney I haven't seen yet. I forbid you to put me in a pyramid." "He says it is very proper and you are a dutiful son," said Dios. "Anyway, you can't possibly afford it. And we'll put your favorite frescoes and statues in with you. You'll like that, won't you?" The king tried to tap one of the engineers on the shoulder, which had no effect. He gave up and sat down beside his dead body. "Don't do it, lad. Never have descendants." So, yeah. The whole pyramid situation in Djelibeybi basically means your ghost is forever trapped by your corpse, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, you can't even wait for the sweet release of death at that point because you've already had it, and, well, here you are. So, the afterlife in Djelibeybi is terrible. Even their, servants who are supposed to take the potion like Tracy refused, get to move on because their souls aren't bound there like the king's are. But fortunately for him, they have to go through the entire pyramid mess with the Great Pyramid bringing all of them back to life. So they get to make their opinions very well known about the situation and are finally freed at the end of everything.
I would really like to know if this is doing anything or not.
Do you need to use the axe? I don't know. Because I don't remember when you can actually do that or if there's something else you have to do.
We'll find out later. Actually, no. And it says something, honestly, that at the end of near the end of the story, when the undead are gathering themselves up and expressing their grievances to one another, that they kind of go on the march looking for the priests and the others who caused this whole problem. And the priest's solution seems to be we have to put them back in the pyramids and not actually solve the problem.
Or the priest's solution was also, we don't know what to do, so we're going to sacrifice Dios and make him go talk to them.
Well, that was with the gods. They ended up getting stuck having to deal with the undead while Dios got sent off to deal with the gods. So you ended up at the end of the story with Dios had kind of ignored the whole god situation when he noticed Tepic running for the big pyramid and decided it was more important to go stop whatever he was doing. And the rest of the priests getting stuck in a standoff with an army of mummies. Who wanted to really have a conversation about their postmortem benefits.
Yeah, we do know it gets resolved because, well, we don't get a whole lot of description, but we do get this brief conversation with Death. This is most irregular. We're sorry, it's not our fault. How many of you are there? More than 1,300, I'm afraid. Very well, then please form an orderly queue.
Which, that's Death for you. He's that kind of guy.
Death is the best.
He is.
But yeah, in the end, it really just comes down to all this lavishness doesn't really matter so much to the pharaohs of Djelibeybi. They just want to be free. And when even death can't save you, you know that something is in need of repair. But fortunately they get that with the destruction of the Great Pyramid and the dissipation of all the time effects. Rip.
Got me cornered.
But then you have Dios, who explicitly is mentioned to keep going into a tomb across the River of the Dead so he can rejuvenate himself and continue to oversee Djelibeybi and make sure things go properly. So even he doesn't want to die, because the afterlife is kind of terrible for Djelibeybi.
And
even though Dios would get to be free if he actually died, which he doesn't because, well, we find out that his life is an eternal time loop.
Yep. Which, as we said from in the prior episode, it's a bootstrap paradox. He has no point of origin. He has always been the high priest of Djelibeybi, an ancient, elderly, wizened man maintaining the traditions of this ancient country, and has seemingly never existed otherwise. Which he can't really change how he is because of the nature of his existence, really. Even if he wanted to.
Okay, I looked it up.
Hmm?
You have to get into the Tower of the Goddess before you can do the pot thing.
Oh, okay. Then we will just focus on trying to kill Pecatonis.
Good luck with that.
I screwed up.
Yeah, I don't really know what else to add here.
Then we will call it there and continue next time. See y'all then.